All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your Saturday to come down here, and thanks to UQ for hosting us. My name's Felix, and along with Shay, Jesse, and Maggie, we're a few of the recent graduates who started at TechnologyOne, and we're just here to talk to you a little bit about our experiences and present the graduate program project that we did at TechnologyOne. So, unlike a lot of companies, TechOne right out of the gate does get you working on real project work and real software. So part of this experience is the graduate project, which all new graduates undertake. Essentially, you're given a business problem and about 8 weeks to research, design, and develop a solution, all within the framework of TechnologyOne's existing software. At the end of the project, you present your work to leaders and peers throughout the company for feedback and discussion. This gives you an almost safe-to-fail environment to get to understand how the company works and the methods and tools that we employ to make software at TechnologyOne. It's also a really fantastic opportunity just to build a little bit of banter between you and the other graduates and just take away some of the nerves of starting a new company. And there are so few companies where this kind of exposure is given to you from day one. I mean, to the point where within 8 weeks, we are presenting our work to the CEO. So today, we'll take you through the projects that we did in our graduate onboarding. And then at the end, we'll talk a bit about our individual experiences. So the project that we had was to research, design, and develop a learning management system that was implementable at educational institutions from K through 12 all the way through to tertiary. So the too long didn't read of that is to make a better Blackboard. This was the team we worked with. It was a good mix of graduate developers and business analysts, which was a first for TechnologyOne. Normally, they just had quite a high developer intake. And the requirements in creating our solution were to just consider the core features that Blackboard and other learning management systems already have. So curriculums for students, classes, timetabling, exams, groups, and stuff like that. And like I said before, we had to make it all within the existing framework of TechnologyOne software. So using the look and feel, the platform, and everything like that. So during research and just from our use, they outlined the key competitors that we did have. So as you can see there, Blackboard's the biggest one in the middle. We've all unfortunately had use using Blackboard. A few of the other ones that are probably a bit lesser known, we found. So through going through those, we did find some common trends. The biggest one was having a design focus on dashboards. So as you're probably familiar with, you go into one single location, everything should be there for you to hop through and just go from one page. However, with Blackboard, that was a bit of a touch and go. But some of the other ones did do it very well. So they had visual analytics of their grades, streamlined access to their course content, and just an overall a little bit more of a compelling user experience. So the weaknesses, which I'm sure you're all aware of, are having an inconsistent experience from subject to subject. So you'll go into one subject, the course content will be in one folder, go into a different one, and suddenly it's in a different place entirely. A lot of this is due to just circumvention of processes by staff. So the lecturers or tutors just can't be bothered to put it in the same place, or the process on their end is just so complex they really just don't know what they're doing. Again, we had content delivery issues, no standardization of grading formats, and dashboards tended to lack the frequently accessed features and content. So you'd have to click through at least 8 or 9 times to get to the thing you're actually looking for. So the goals that we had when we were making our learning management system was to streamline these processes and encourage efficiency and consistency among all of your subjects, and have a simple, consistent, and compelling interface for all stakeholders, so not just students, for teachers as well. And of course, to have it configurable for K through 12 and tertiary institutions. So within the scope of that is everything normally handled by like Blackboard or a learning management system. So assessment, content delivery, all those core features. We did have to leave out some just due to time constraints. Like I said, we only had about 8 weeks. And those are things normally handled by student management software. So like subject creation, enrollment, timetabling, stuff like that. So I'll just pass over to Maggie now, and she'll take you through some of the personas that we use in development and just in our presentation.
Okay, so an important part of software development, the process, I guess, is knowing who you're developing the software for. If you don't know who you're building it for, then how do you know what the requirements are and whether you're creating something beneficial or not? So for our learning management system, there are two core personas, and that's the teacher and student. So I'll start off with the teacher. We've gone with a community theme today. And so our teacher, Senor Chan. As a teacher, you're using a learning management system to upload content to push to your students so that I guess they can proceed with the studies and be successful. As I said, they're generally pushing content, they're not pulling too much from it. They're using the system frequently and have a pretty good idea how to use it, but it's been in the past very complex for them and it's held them back from doing their jobs. So their goal is to communicate with their students so they can be successful. Then we have our student persona, and as a student, I'm sure you all know why you use a learning management system and what you do and don't like about it. So you just want to get your content that you need, sometimes on the go, on your phone, iPad, whatever it may be. You're usually just trying to get the content you need, but occasionally have to upload your assignments. You're using it frequently, and in the past it's just unavailable, very inconsistent, and so they're the pain points. And your goal is just for it to be reliable, fast, and yeah, just generally easy to use, and you don't want to waste too much time trying to find things. So there are two personas, and I'll pass you on to Jesse now.
Hey guys, so I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction to our software and what we ended up creating. Cool. So I'm going to walk you through, as a student, what you would experience. So logging in, you get to what we call our TechnologyOne workplace. So this is where you will access the functions that are available to you. As you can see, there's 4 currently available to me as a student. I've got the learning dashboard, I've got events, I can submit an assessment item, and I can access announcements. So these are what we call our tiles. These 2 on the left here are called our active tiles. So that gives us a bit more of a snapshot view of what we're going to see if we enter that tile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the learning dashboard. So as Felix said, one of the things that we really tried to focus on is having information available quickly at a glance. If you need to drill down and get more specific, you can, but we really wanted it to be user-friendly and a bit more intuitive than, say, Blackboard. So this is, sorry, I don't know what's happened there. This is the student dashboard. So as you can see, on the right-hand side, we've got a calendar view. So this is one thing that really bugged me personally about Blackboard, is not knowing. I had to go back to virtual at QT to then figure out what I was doing, and then go back into Blackboard to get my course content. So we thought, why not combine them both together? So here is the calendar view. I'm going to show you a bit more of an expanded section of that later on in the demo. But first up, we've got our announcements. So this is a section where you'll be able to see any content that you need to know. There's a couple here. We've got subject announcements, and then we've got school-wide announcements. So a teacher can push an announcement for a specific subject, or say the dean of the school can then start sending out a full school announcement. As you can see, there's an announcement here. Assignment 1 has been released. So I might want to see what's involved in that announcement. And I can click on that, and it will bring up what we call our natural view and show the content of it. Okay, that's a bit embarrassing. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of a insight into what happened to us this morning. In our production environment, someone changed our database, so we had 3 hours to then rebuild everything. So that was one thing we missed. But the assignment has been released, so I would have seen an announcement there. So now I'm going to go into my subjects. Another pain point that we recognised in Blackboard was that you couldn't really see all your subjects at once. You'd have to follow a breadcrumb trail to get to one, back up the breadcrumb track, and then back into another subject, and it became really cumbersome. So we've tried to combine them all together in one section. So as you can see, I've got 4 subjects I'm currently enrolled in. I've got conspiracy theories in US history, history of ice cream, paintball gun 101, and Spanish 101. So it's a community college, so the subject choices are a little bit left of field, but let's have a look at conspiracy theories in US history. I don't know why that keeps coming up. So this is the subject view. This is specific to that subject, conspiracy theories in US history. So I've assumed that I've seen that announcement that assignment 1 has been released. And I can then see some of the content that's associated with that subject. There was subject content there. Unfortunately, as I said, the database was wiped this morning, so that was one thing we forgot to put back in. But the assessment item's there. Okay, so celebrities and conspiracies. I might want to submit an assessment item for that. I've done my work. So all I would have to do would be to click this button, and it brings up what we call a wizard. So this is how, it's basically a step-by-step process that guides the user to complete a task. So it'll auto-fill all my details. My name's Annie Edison. I'm submitting for the assessment ID celebrities and conspiracies, and I can click next. One thing we built in, instead of having to go and assert that you are the owner and writer of your assignment and you are abiding by the academic integrity statement, was to have that built into the submission process. So you can quickly just click that, state, yes, I'm writing an assignment, I've done it. And then you can start accessing a little bit of the content. So, whoops. Oh, no. Okay. I was going to show you drag drop, but I think because I've got so many different desktops open, it's going to be a little bit tricky. So, there's my assessment item. I'll open that up. I can put a few notes in if I want, but I'm pretty happy with it, so I'm just going to click OK. So that's then loaded it up into the wizard. I can click next, and this will give me the opportunity to preview what I'm submitting. So I chose to submit an item on Beyonce and the Illuminati, because everyone knows that Jay-Z, Rockefeller, they're all interlinked. So I'm going to submit that. And as you can see, I've now got a submitted item. I get a submission confirmation, so I can use that as proof that yes, I did submit an assignment. And I can see the assessment items that I've attached. So to me, that seems like a really streamlined process to submit something. From what I remember with Blackboard, it wasn't that simple. So we were quite proud of the fact that we were able to make it so intuitive. And now I'm going to go back to my learning dashboard and show you a few more features. So I've just submitted an assessment item. I want to see what grades I've got for that. So I can click on my grades section. And it'll bring up all the subjects that I'm currently enrolled in. I know that I've submitted an assessment item for conspiracy theories in US history. So I'll go in and view the grades. So I have no grades yet. So that will be reliant on the teacher then grading my assignment. But you can see that it gives you a summary of all the assessment items in a bit of a natural view. One of the things we really tried to focus on was collaboration. We didn't quite nail it as much as we wanted to, and that was purely due to time constraints. But instead of having to go outside the product, and I remember doing this countless times, having to organize a group assignment through, say, a Facebook group or a Google Drive group, it's kind of like, guys, why couldn't you just build this into the product so we could do it? So we tried to tackle that. So we created the concept of my groups. So there's a couple of different things you can do with this. There's two different types of groups that we've catered for. There's an assessment group if you've got a group assignment, or a social group. So because it's a community college and they're all pretty chilled out, I'm going to create a group for sitting on the lawn. You know, you just want to invite some people along. If I can spell sitting. Because it is a social group, I'm going to click social. You can limit the capacity if you want, but I'll leave it open. I'm friendly. So this is where you start adding members to your group. So I'm already in the group because I created it, but I'll add Akmal. Oh, Abed, sorry. Bit of faux pas. And I want Jeff Winger as well. Cool. So I've added my group members. Click next, and this is just a confirmation of the members. So I'm happy with that. Go over and click finish. Now I have my group. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to create an event for that group. And this is another thing that we really wanted to focus on, was the ability to sort of create a calendar that you can track your day and also track others through the product. So I'm going to go back to our workplace. You can see that there was a tab for the calendar, but I'm going to go into the fully featured calendar here. And you can see that I've got a couple of events there, so I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to include the group. So we will sit on the lawn. I can put a description if I want. When do I want it? I'll do it today, and I'll do it at 2 o'clock. And I'll finish that at 4 o'clock. On the lawn. I can make it an all-day event if I really want to, and that'll pin it up the top of the calendar. I can also repeat the event, so I can have it Monday to Friday, daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, and yearly. I'm only going to do this once, and I'm going to do it today, so I'll just leave it at that. I can tie it to a subject if I want, but I don't have a subject that I particularly want to associate that with, so I'm just going to associate it with my group. So I'll save that. The group's been created, and then I can also add some participants to that group, to the event, sorry, much like I did with the group. So add a couple of people. They've been added, and then I can go back to my calendar, have a look at my event. There's the summary. Sorry about that. And there's my participants. So that's a bit of an overview of what you would experience as a student in the learning management system that we developed. What I'll do now is I'll pass you on to Shay, and he will show you the perspective of a teacher.
Thanks, Jesse. So I'll give you a quick rundown as a teacher role. There's pretty much the same as a student, but they've got a few extra features, obviously. So again, this is the workplace. You can access all our apps from here. We have the learning dashboard, which would be pretty similar for the teachers as for the students. Again, it will be all dependent on what subjects they're teaching, so they won't be able to see all the subjects, just the ones they have. In the contact session, they'll be able to see all the students that are in their classes. They won't have too many for these ones, but all those students are enrolled in classes they're in. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the workplace, and we'll mark that assessment that Annie just submitted before. So we go to this inbox app, and in here, we can find all the things that have been submitted to us to handle. So this is the assessment that we submitted before, and it needs grading. So we can just go up to here, we can see it on the slide here, and we can also download it from in here if we need to. And so we'll go in and grade this. So this grading is out of 100. We'll give it Annie, and we won't bother reading it because Annie's pretty smart and we're pretty lazy. And now we can just mark it as graded to confirm that this is actually finalised grade and not just a default one. Give her a comment. My eyes have been opened by this. And finish that off. And now that's removed from our inbox. If we need to see anything we've actually marked, we can go in here and we can filter into the ones that we've already graded, and that one should show up now. And it has the grades that we gave her. So we'll just go back to the workplace. So as a teacher, we're also going to be uploading things more often than students would be. So we'll go in here, I should go directly into a subject. We'll go to our Spanish subject here. So we can click on here, excuse me, and they'll go directly to the subject. Makes it a bit quicker to get into. And once this finally loads, we'll be able to upload the content. So we're going to create a new assessment item in Spanish. So there's no assessment for this subject yet. So we'll create a new one. Jump into the wizard again. So we'll say, so we're going to create a presentation one. Assessment type, presentation, due date, that looks all fine. We've got a draft button here just in case they want to create all their assessment at the start of the semester and then only release it when it's done. So if they tick draft, it wouldn't be visible to any students until they come back in here and untick it. So we're waiting, so this is the percentage of their grade, and then we can change it for marks available. So this one's going to have 100 marks. Click next. So here we can upload a criteria sheet or anything else we might need. And so we've got this PDF here with the criteria sheet. Just throw that on there. And after that, yeah, we can see the preview of the PDF here. And so we got that, finish that off. And now this should be visible in the assessment section, and this will be available to students now to look at. Yeah, great. So since we've just marked Annie's assessment earlier, I'll just quickly go back to hers. I've gone the wrong way. And we should be able to quickly just go into her dashboard and view that assessment we just graded in the natural view that Jesse showed you earlier. And with this, the natural views, Jesse didn't quite point out that you're actually able to print those out. They come in as a separate PDF after you've done. Oh, right, sorry, that was Spanish. We want the conspiracy theories. And you can see we've got our graded assessment there. And now I'll pass it back to Jesse, and he's going to give you a quick speech on our first 12 weeks.
So as part of the product development lifecycle, it's always good to loop back around and have a look at what you started with and compare it to what you ended with. So I'm going to show you some of our initial mock-ups. The process that we followed was we got about a week to scope out what we thought we were going to develop to the criteria we'd been given. And then they said, come up with some lo-fi mocks. This was a good thing because we didn't have any knowledge of the TechOne platform. So we were able to push the boundaries. Obviously, we had some pretty good ideas, but we also had some ones that we look back on and go, ooh, they're not as good as they could have been. So one of the ones that really sticks out to me is having 3 columns on the dashboard here. I'm really glad we didn't do that. So as part of the development process, it's good to realize that your first idea is not always going to be your best, and in this case, it really wasn't. Also with the subjects, that looks pretty cramped to me. I think what we did eventually come up with was a lot better. The grading one, we had very fanciful ideas of having like a multi-grid, like you can drill down to everything. Coming back to that, we thought, do you really want to do that? Probably not. So these are our final mock-ups. This is after we'd done a 3-day pretty much immersion into the TechOne platform, and we started to realize what we could achieve. So as you can see, they probably look a little bit more familiar to what we came up with. The dashboard, instead of having 3 columns, now only has 1. We've got that event section on the right-hand side and the tabs on the left. The grading also, that 3-column massive grid's gone. The events pretty much mirrors what it looks like now, and the subjects is very similar to what it came out as. This is the process flow. So one thing that really bugged all of us as a university student was the fact that you could go 8 levels deep down in Blackboard, and you'd start to lose yourself. So what we really wanted to try and do is create a very shallow product in the sense that you needed to click maybe 4 times to get where you needed to go. So this is just how we mapped out how we were going to achieve that. So we've got our workplace, which is our main screen that I showed you before. From there we had our events, our learning dashboard, and the submission inbox for the teacher. One level down from that, we've got all our sections that you're able to then, I suppose, broaden your search criteria from there. But you could pretty much on this level, at a glance, get most of the content. And then down from that, you've got your more specific sections where you really want to get like a full summary of, say, a grade or a subject content or something like that. And we also tried to categorize our personas, so just so that we knew when we were developing and we didn't get lost with what we were trying to achieve, that this is what each of the personas would want to get to. So with any project, there's always going to be challenges. If you go in thinking you're not going to have them, then I think that's a bit of a false prophecy. So we did have some challenges, and it's really good to reflect on what they are so you can learn from them. one of the main challenges was trying to come up with something that was configurable from kindergarten all the way through to a tertiary education level. There's a lot of different variables that are specific to each level along that spectrum. So for us to try and come up with a solution that encompassed it all, it was definitely challenging. Security privileges for a variety of roles, that kind of feeds off that configurability. There's a lot of different personas that we tried to encompass, and due to time constraints and scoping, we really kind of had to compact it a little bit. Integration with an existing student management system, we didn't have that. So there was a lot of assumed knowledge that we acted on that was kind of hard, because we didn't know, do we assume that's going to be done for us? Do we supply that functionality? So that was definitely a challenge. Agreeing on scope, that was probably our major one. We had 8 people in our team. We had three BAs? 3 BAs and 5 devs. There's a lot of different personalities in our team, all work really well together, but everyone's got their own opinions. So what one person might find really precious, it's an idea they've come up with, the group might not. So it's cutting the fat, basically. And that's a process that everyone goes through. It's just, it's a learned thing. You don't want to start throwing criticism don't throw shade at people. You just want to be constructive in the way, like maybe we should probably rule that out due to time constraints or something like that. The big one, modifying data during development. So I'll talk a little bit later on about the onboarding program, but we came up with about 6 different iterations of our database schema, and the first ones were atrocious. We just didn't know. We were green. And every time we'd present these to our mentor, Greg, you could tell. He'd look at it and he'd try and be nice about it, but he'd just be like, nah, guys, back to the drawing board. So we got to about iteration 3, and then we were so keen. We're like, let's get into this, let's start developing, we want to do this. And then there came iteration 4, 5, and 6. And doing that on the fly whilst you're developing, it throws a few complications into the mix. So that was definitely a challenge. Future improvements. From those challenges and the scoping, we then thought, this is what we wanted to achieve, but we couldn't. So we didn't really account for classes in the sense of like a lecture or tutorial. That's something that we really wanted to, but just due to time we couldn't. Collaboration tools, that was a big one. We had big dreams for that. We wanted to create the next Facebook in a learning management system. Obviously we didn't do that, but we thought that what we could achieve, we should at least try to. So we got some of it. We want to improve that at some point. Cloud file storage, as you can see, you can drag and drop stuff on there, but having like a repository would be pretty cool. Event tools, we just wanted to bulk that out a bit more, make it a bit more robust. Integration with student management, we didn't have anything to mock to, so we'd probably want to sort that out before we release this into the wild as a fully blown product. And workflows, so the submission and approval process, we think we can make a little bit better as well. So that was one thing we wanted to improve on. So what I'll do now is I'll give you a bit of an insight into my experience as a graduate at TechnologyOne. So I've been a graduate twice in my short career in 2 different fields. I used to be an accountant. I was a grad accountant, and now I'm a grad developer. But being a grad at any company, no matter which way you look at it, is an intense experience. You're walking into a big organization, not really knowing a lot, but having an expectation, whether or not you put it on yourself or it's there, you're going to have that feeling of, I've got to achieve something. And it's important that you acknowledge that, but you don't let it consume you. The thing that makes a big difference is, does the company that you're going into have a bit of a plan for you? And I'll allude to that a little bit later on. So the grad program at TechOne I found was a really good melding of learning and doing. You learn and do at the same time, and you're in a startup culture kind of little sandbox. It's to get you comfortable, and it's a really good way to do that. So your first day is basically you get a company onboarding. You need to know how the company operates, what they do, how they do it. And basically at TechOne, we work hard, we celebrate our successes, and we expect results. yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell, actually. But what that gives you is a really good positive work culture. And that's something that I've really recognised. I've been in some really bad roles before where the environment's a bit caustic. I haven't got that at TechOne. And one thing Fraser said, onboarding, I think he said his was really quite hard because he was working remotely, and I imagine that would be pretty hard. One thing that I did notice at the TechOne onboarding process was it was easy. There was no real complication. That level of expectation was set quite low, but like you could achieve a lot. So you didn't feel kind of like pigeonholed or under pressure. It was, yeah, as I said, a startup culture. So basically, we had 8 weeks. We had a team of 8. We had 3 weeks of learning and scoping, all that kind of stuff, and then we had 4.5 weeks of development. And we came up with that. I mean, to me, that I was pretty impressed with myself. Starting out with nothing and then coming out with that was, yeah, I was proud, and I think the team was proud too. So we'd meet with our mentors every day. They would guide us, make sure we weren't going off on tangents, because we did have a tendency to do that, especially with the schemers. Like, we had some good schemers, and then we had some bad ones. So after the onboarding program, I got put in the platform team. So a lot of the stuff we showed you in that demo was free to us. Like, we got that just with the platform, and that's what I now work on. So I work on the libraries and the APIs that all of the TechOne product teams utilize daily. So yeah, I basically work on the nuts and bolts and the design patterns. It's a pretty, I don't want to say challenging, but it's an intense team because there's an expectation that you're kind of the forward-thinking. You've got to get this done before every other team uses it. So I walked in there very green, and there's some very smart people in there. But I mean, as long as I had the willingness to learn, they had the willingness to show me. So the onboarding program made me a productive team member, and then I was able to then take that into a product team. A typical day for me is basically, I'm an early riser, so I get in at 7:30. I go down to the Village Green, which is kind of our social area, grab some breakfast, go up to my desk, usually visit a few blogs whilst eating, and then straight into work. So I work on the OS X platform. It's better than Windows. I then log into an AWS box and do all my Visual Studio stuff there. I'm usually developing until about midday, and then Felix comes and interrupts me. I usually have tunnel vision on, and then we go get some lunch. So I usually take an hour for lunch. You can take as much or as little as you want, as long as you get your work done. Eat lunch for half an hour, and then we play Mario Kart for half an hour. It's pretty intense. Like, we've been doing it for 8 months now. We're good. And there's banter. Like, there is some serious banter, but that's probably one of the best parts of my day, because you've been coding for 4 hours, then you go get some lunch, and then you have time to let your brain just relax. And I find a lot of the time, if I've got a problem in the morning, I will just have a brainwave whilst I'm playing Mario Kart, and I'll be winning Mario Kart. But that brainwave, I'll be like, why didn't I think of that when I'm staring at the code? But that's something that I've found really helps me, and the company encourages me to take that time, and I do, so I like that. The first thing in the platform team, and the end of my day is usually, I usually have scoping meetings in the afternoon, because my superiors usually have their scoping meetings in the morning, and then they pass that information to me in the afternoon, and then I code till about 5. I will tell you one thing. Shelve or check in at the end of the day. It's really important, because you can lose work, and it has happened to me, but that's a hot tip. You can keep that. The first thing I worked on was user delegations. So basically, that's a way for us in our product to give functionality from one user to another. Say if a user went on holidays and they want to assign something to another person, but that other person can't do it without some access privileges, I then facilitate that. It was working, but it was really not that intuitive. It was quite complex to do, and I came in not knowing what to do. Like, I'm a pretty tech-savvy person. They said, what do you think? And I said, I can't make sense of it. So they said, good, because we want you to improve it. So it was about 6 screens. I worked with the user experience team, and we cut that down to 2. I was quite proud of myself on this project because I worked independently. I managed my own time. I was given a directive, wasn't necessarily given a brief, but I came out with something whilst working with the UX team that I could be proud of, and I still get feedback from that from my boss saying, well done. So it was good. It was a baptism of fire though, not in a bad way, but you're unleashed. Like, you've just come through an onboarding program, and they're like, make something. It's like, oh, really? Can I? So that was a really good kind of, I was put on that by myself to really see what I could accomplish, and I felt like I came out with a good result. But what I did in that project showed me how users are treated in our system and in our database. So then I was a prime candidate for the next project I worked on, which was a pretty big one actually. We've termed it What's New. So it's one thing that we not necessarily lacked, but we didn't really communicate in our products any new additions. So what we're now working on is a way to notify our users that, hey, we've just made this new product. Here's a preview of it. Have a look at it. It's really cool. Like, we're just going through the testing phase, and it's pretty awesome. I can't actually show you, but hopefully one day you'll see it. But what that project entailed was huge. We had to go through all the products in our system, categorize the functions within the products, then categorize the users who have access to those functions, and then somehow figure out how we're going to push tailored content into each one of them. So that entailed liaising with all the product teams, scoping meetings. It was long, and it morphed constantly. The first thing you're going to come up with is not necessarily the thing you're going to come out with, and I learnt this tenfold in this project, just because what we thought we were going to do at the start, it just changed constantly. And part of being a good developer, I think, is adapting to that change, not being, I suppose, a stick in the mud. Like, if it needs to change, it needs to change. Just change it. So, yeah, as I said, that was a big task. And we've just gone through testing, and the feedback we're getting from that project is really good. So for me to be a small part of the team that came up with that, I'm pretty proud of it. So enterprise software is completely different to what you're probably touching at uni. I wrote this speech assuming I'd be talking to people who are still in uni, but I remember when I was at uni, I knew the code innately. I knew what it did. I'd written it. I was pretty good with it. Enterprise software is code that's been touched by many different people multiple times a day, so it's big, but it's a really good learning curve because you start having to figure out what the code does, and I wasn't necessarily the best person at doing that. But because of that, I've started to see a lot more confidence in my code. I looked back on the user delegations code I wrote 6 months ago, about a week ago, and I was just like, oh, I could fix that, I could fix that. So for me, that means that I'm learning, and that's what I wanted from a grad role. I really wanted to learn. I tried to act like a sponge, basically, and it's starting to pay off, so I'm quite happy with my progress. But yeah, so looking back, I have worked on some pretty cool stuff, and I've surprised myself. I was actually the first graduate developer to be accepted on their ability test being written in PHP. Yeah, I know. And the reason I say that is because I didn't have a lot of confidence going in. I thought I'd just apply and I'd get knocked back. But the code I wrote was clean. It did what it needed to do, and they said, yeah, we'll take you on board. And I was like, really? Cool. But yeah, if you are thinking about doing a grad role, and you're a little bit nervous about whether or not you should or you can, just try, because you might surprise yourself. And yeah, that's pretty much my experience. We'll have a bit of a Q&A after this if you have any questions for me. I'll pass on to Maggie now, who's going to give you a bit of an insight into being a business analyst at TechnologyOne. Thanks.
Okay, so I won't touch too much on the whole onboarding process because Jesse covered that off, and he went through our challenges and the highlights and said just how much fun we did have in the end, and we're still good friends. So I'll jump into the business analyst role and a general day of what I do. So usually I get to the office about 8 and, like Jesse, just grab some breakfast and a coffee, check the news, read some emails, and then depending on my calendar, I've probably got a meeting or two during the day. And so my first task, I guess, I'll let you know, I am in the asset management team, and I had to redesign asset relationships. And so just explaining what that is, an asset, for example, a haul truck will have an engine which is a separate asset in itself, and it can actually be removed, taken away for repairs, and then brought back to a store or replaced into the truck. But to minimise the downtime of the truck, a different engine is put into that. And it's really important to trace that for costs and just for strategic asset management. Okay, so now that you know that, that was my first task, and it's what we call a roadmap bubble at TechOne, and our roadmap is basically what work we're trying to get done within a release, and each team has their own and is striving towards that. And so basically, in the morning after I did that, I would work on latest mock-ups, and we usually use Balsamiq to do that as business analysts, but one of our Hack Day winners actually came up with a really handy thing called Quick Mocks, so I can use that as well. It's really cool. And then after that, I might start writing some user stories and validation acceptance criteria around it. Then it's usually probably lunchtime by the time I get through that, and so I head down to the village green with the others and see who's winning Mario Kart that day. And then after lunch, usually a meeting, research meetings, and really it just depends what stage you're at with that, depending who will come to it. If it's at the start, we don't really get the developers on board because they're busy working on something else, but we'll have product architects, consultants, we could have pre-sales, and just like our product owner with heaps of customer feedback, and you're basically sifting through all the requirements, what worked well, what didn't work well, what we need to change, what we want to add. And so basically, I'll go in with my mock-ups, and they're just put up on the screen, and it's either, oh, just modify this a bit, or that's not very good, change that screen completely, which is fine because it's all part of the process. As you saw, our first mock-ups we did for our project were nothing like what we ended up with. So after my meeting, then I'll go back, just make sure that I've written down notes of all the changes, and I'll start changing that. So that's about an average day of what I do, but also a bit of testing. As a business analyst, you'll do that. And we also take part in sprint planning and sprint review, which is fortnightly, so it's agile project management, but not strictly. So we run them for 2 weeks, and sprint planning is just figuring out what are we going to do in the next 2 weeks, who are we going to assign it to, is someone taking leave, and just working that out. And sprint review, we actually have the developers come in and they show us what they've done in the last 2 weeks, and it's just good to catch up, and they can tell us what worked well for them, what didn't, even though on a daily basis I sit next to my whole team and can just ask them, and we openly communicate all day. So I guess I'll just touch on a few other benefits of being a grad at TechOne. You're never alone, so when you first start, you're assigned a buddy, and they're pretty much just your friend. It's not formal, you don't have to worry too much about asking stupid questions. So it's really good, they make you feel comfortable, they help you set up your laptop. Mine couldn't help me, so they got someone else who could, so then there's another friend. And I guess from there you build up more friends. There's a village green, which is really great. We have all-day breakfasts, there's beer taps, there's games. And another thing we had as a group was TechOne has a foundation, and as part of the 1% pledge, we got to go to the RSPCA for the day. So that was really cool, and something you don't really expect coming out of university, going to your full-time job. You didn't think you'd be out patting puppies and feeding them and volunteering for a day with your friends. So that's a really great initiative that they have for us. And I touched on Hack Day earlier, and that's something we have quarterly. And so every 3 months we just stop working on our roadmap bubble for the day, and you can work on anything you want that you're passionate about, with anyone you want. You could work alone, find someone else from a different part of the company. It's really up to you. And I guess they've been really successful so far. We've had 3 and they've been great ideas, and they're actually coming up with solutions and ideas that are put into our software and rolled out to customers. So it's a really great initiative. And I guess I'll also mention that I actually started with TechOne as an intern. So you don't have to wait until you finish your degree to apply as a graduate. I definitely encourage an internship because it takes away a bit of the pressure. You're given an intern project, you're not working on a roadmap bubble towards a deadline, and you just get familiar with the framework, how things work. So it's a really good idea if that's something you're interested in. So before we open up to questions,
because I talked a long time, like over my allotted time, so if anyone has any questions, we'll ask them so you can get them in. Otherwise, we'll show you a video. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, 2. We didn't think we'd get any. I'll go with the guy at the back, and then I'll come back to you, sir. Yeah, so the question was, do I connect over RDP to an AWS machine? Yes, I do. Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. So if I really wanted to, I could do it on my phone, and I have. I had a presentation with one of my, with Greg, my manager, and I was debugging, and I'd forgotten to turn the debugger off, and the environment was running really slowly, so I had to RDP in on my phone and like tiny writing, turn off the debugger. But yeah, it's a really good experience. I use, as I said, OS X, and I think that's better in that scenario with RDP because you have your global hotkeys in your OS X that override anything in your Windows environment through RDP. So it means you've got the ability to use both, basically, because they're different. But no, it's a good experience, and I'm converting people daily at the organisation. I mean, I've seen people chuck Surface Pro 4s out just to get a MacBook Air. It's really good. And you, sir? Was that a specific question for me?
Yeah, I did that.
Okay. Well, my experience was a little bit different. I actually tried to fast track my degree, so my IT knowledge was a bit scrambled. I didn't go through a set subject path. The stack I was using before I went in was PHP and a little bit of like HTML5, obviously JavaScript, and then mangled SQL in the back end. So mine, I can quite happily say my knowledge was not at where I wanted it to be. I think, as I said, the code I wrote was clean. It did what it needed to do, and they saw potential in me. And I went in and just asked bulk questions. And I was that annoying guy that was like, oh yeah, cool, can you show me how to do that? And they're like, oh, again? I'm like, yes, please, I really need to know. So I'd say that my knowledge at uni, I haven't utilised because I've just expanded on it. I don't know if that's my personal experience, but uni is a good tool for you to learn. It shows you how to learn, and then you apply that methodology to the wild, I suppose. But look, there's people that I went through my degree with who could be my boss, and there's one guy he's 20, and the dude is a guru, and I learned from him, and I'm quite happy to. So it's where you are. Like they'll take you at any stage of your knowledge as long as they see potential. Any more questions? Come on, someone's got to have a burning question. I won't buy it. No? Okay, we'll show you a video.
where is it? Here we go.
There's no sound.
There's no sound.
Okay.
No?
My name's Chris Brown. I'm the R&D evangelist here at TechnologyOne, and I joined in 2011 as a product owner. I think the number one thing we do really well here at TechnologyOne is integrate the grads and interns into the programs. I think being a part of a team who contributes to everything that we're doing, from stand-ups right through to development of software and part of the product and the actual production lifecycle.
I'm Maggie O'Brien and I'm an intern business analyst. I love working at TechnologyOne because of the people. They're very supportive, and of course the environment here is amazing. TechnologyOne looks for someone who isn't afraid to ask questions, be challenged and push the boundaries. I'm proud to tell my friends that I work here. I love my job.
One of the coolest things about bringing grads into our teams is they bring new and fresh ideas. Every single one of the grads and interns that we've had over the years has ended up developing some fantastic software for us from day one. When we actually get our grads in, they are part of the team here and they actually contribute every single day.
My name is Thomas Solon and I am an intern business analyst. I like working here because of the people. Everyone here has expert domain knowledge, and being able to ask questions to almost anyone and have them help you find a solution to your problem is one of the big reasons why I like working here. I would highly recommend any university student that's interested in software development to apply here because it was probably the best decision that I've made.
My name is Ryan Narlander and I'm a graduate developer. I like working at TechnologyOne because of the good people, the good teams and the interesting projects we get to work on here. I've always loved computers from a young age. I've always written programs, built websites and I've always wanted to do something in the IT industry. TechnologyOne looks for graduates who are driven, who are passionate and love what they do.
As a graduate here at TechnologyOne, you are a part of that team. You're actually able to come in and start to contribute as a team member, a valuable team member, and I think that makes a massive difference to the way in which you actually experience as a graduate joining that new workplace and joining the workforce.
I'm Olivia McIntyre and I'm a graduate business analyst for the HRP team. The work environment here for a grad is so awesome because you have so many different people that are always here to help you. You have your onboarding experience, you have your all-day breakfast, your beer taps. I definitely would recommend TechnologyOne as somewhere for other grads to come because it's such a great place to work and everyone's so friendly. It's just so easy to join in the TechnologyOne community.
My name is Joel Addison and I'm a graduate developer here at TechnologyOne. As a graduate, I've had a lot of opportunities, so I've been able to go on to a fantastic team and learn lots of things about our software and software in general from a wide variety of different people who have knowledge in lots of different areas. My biggest accomplishment so far is having built the survey engine within Forms in the BPM team, and that's something I'm really proud of in my time here at TechOne so far. I'm very proud of where I work. It's a great company to work for, it's a lot of fun, and it's got lots of great opportunities for everyone here.
At TechnologyOne, we are looking for people with a passion for software, their ability to come in and engage, to ask questions and learn. We are looking for them to sell themselves and contribute as part of a team. Our grads have come on board and they've been helping us to build some great software that our customers are going to use in future generations.
If no one has any questions, I think we're done. Cool. Thanks for having us.